Yeah, okay, that's fine. Wow. سلام. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فأرجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير. إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خراتدناها ألم تكن نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير. إن الذين يخشون ربهم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. وأسروا قولكم أو أجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه نشور. أأمنهم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاسبا فستعلمون كيف نذير. ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير. أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافة ما يمكسهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير. أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور. آمنا هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور. أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سوي على صراط مستقيم. قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون. قل هو الذي ذراكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين. قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين. فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون. قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجبر الكافرين من عذاب عليم. قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين. قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فما يأتيكم بماء معين. صدق الله العظيم.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا. ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا. روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں. ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا. روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں. ہم سے بچھڑا ہے مولا ہمارا. روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں. ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا. روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں. خاک بے وارسی ہے سروں پر. کالے پرچم لگے ہیں گھروں پر. خاک بے وارسی ہے سروں پر. کالے پرچم لگے ہیں گھروں پر. ہم سے بچھڑا ہے مولا ہمارا. ہم سے بچھڑا ہے مولا ہمارا، روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں۔ ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا، روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں۔ شب یہ 19ویں کیسی آئی، خوں میں ڈوبا محمد کا بھائی۔ شب یہ 19ویں کیسی آئی، خوں میں ڈوبا محمد کا بھائی۔ رو رہا ہے سحر کا ستارہ، روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں۔ ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا، روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں۔ ابن ملجم ستم کیسا ڈھایا، قبر میں سیدہ کو رلایا۔ ابن ملجم ستم کیسا ڈھایا، قبر میں سیدہ کو رلایا۔ کیسے بچوں کا ہوگا گزارا، روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں۔ ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا، روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں۔ تیغ سر پہ علی کے لگی ہے، آج شمع امامت بجھی ہے۔ تیغ سر پہ علی کے لگی ہے، آج شمع امامت بجھی ہے۔ دل یتیموں کا ہے پارا پارا، دل یتیموں کا ہے پارا پارا، روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں۔ ابن ملجم نے حیدر کو مارا، روزداروں قیامت کے دن ہیں۔ بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
الفاتحة۔ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على سید الانبیاء والمرسلین، خاتم النبیین بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في قرآنه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين قوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واجعل لي لسان صدق في الآخرين صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات We continue on, and I won't dwell too much on what we've already looked at over the past few days, but we continue on looking at how to leave a positive legacy in the world around us. And as we've been doing over the past few days, we continue on with the letter that Imam Ali alayhi salam writes to his son Imam Hassan to guide him through life. Recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. With an eye on the clock, I'll dive right into it. Today, we progress on through that letter. We've only really reached the very start of it. The second piece of advice that our Imam gives to his son is an incredible piece of advice, particularly when you think that this is an advice that is being given directly from one Imam to another Imam. The advice that Imam Ali alayhi salam gives to his son is to take good advice where you find it. This is what the Imam tells his son. Now, many of us, we'd be perplexed. We'd turn around, we'd ask, but why should an Imam ever need to take advice? An Imam who is a hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an Imam who has greater knowledge than any of us, why ever should an Imam take advice? But if we look through the lives of our A'immah, it's true. They did take advice. And very famously, we see it in the story of Karbala, Kufa and Sham, which we so very often remember. We see again and again our fourth Imam, Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam. He consults Sayyida Zainab Ulya Khatun, and they make decisions in conjunction with each other. They make decisions together. So here in this letter, Imam Ali alayhi salam is telling his son, where you see good advice and where you find good advice, take it. This is the first thing that I want to pick up on. See, the Imam, when he speaks about taking advice, he's telling this to another Imam. So who are we to be turning down advice from other people? What arrogance must we have within us to think that we cannot be wrong and somebody else cannot be right? This understanding that those who are older than us, they have more wisdom than us, they have more experience. That's true, that's correct, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that those who are older are absolutely right. And in the same way, for those who are younger, they seem to think that the past generations, they've lived their life, they're a little bit past it. Now we've got the internet, we've got technology, and I have more access to information. So what I say is absolutely right because I saw it somewhere on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. So it must be correct, it must be true. No. You have to look for good advice. But when you find it, don't shut it away from yourself. One of the most important things that we have to remember is that we are constantly on a journey of learning. We are constantly trying to improve our knowledge. And if you never consider the fact that you might be wrong, your knowledge will never ever increase. I remember I was on a flight. We were going towards Dar es Salaam. I was with Abid, in fact. This was a conversation that we were having together. And we were talking about space. We were talking about his PhD that he's doing. And I kept asking question after question after question. I was intrigued. I found it incredible. So I kept asking him questions that many people might find completely mundane because I'm a complete novice in the field of space and the sun and gases that emerge from it. I know nothing about it. So I was asking him every question under the sun. And he stopped for a while and he said, people never ask questions anymore. And we started talking about that. And so as you get older, something comes about us where either it's embarrassment or it's ego or what is it we don't know, but we stop asking questions. When children ask questions, sure, you might find it annoying, but there's a certain recognition that, mashallah, he asks smart questions, this kid. The questions he asks, they're intelligent. That tells you the sign of an intelligent child is a child who asks lots of questions. A child who is intrigued and curious is a child that will go far, inshallah. But then why do we stop that as we grow older? As we grow older, do we think that we know everything there is to know? No. Keep exploring. Keep that curiosity alive within yourself. Keep looking for advice wherever you go. But make sure it is good advice. This is the caveat that our Imam points out to Imam Hassan. He says to his son, Take good advice where you find it. Which means don't take advice from everybody. Don't take advice from anybody. No. Take good advice. See, the point I mentioned just a moment ago about how we might see something on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and because we've seen it there, all of a sudden we just assume it's true. We don't need to fact check it. We don't need to go over it. We just assume it's true. This has happened through the ages. This isn't a new thing. Once upon a time, it was, if you see it printed, if it's in a book or in a newspaper article, then it must be true. There's no chance that something printed in a book could be wrong. But of course it can be wrong. And we knew that back then. We know that now. Then it became, if it's on the internet, it must be true. It was on Wikipedia. It must be true. It has to be. But no, there's no fact checking there. See, it's up to us to check our own facts. On the day of Qiyamah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to ask us questions, or when we are asked by the angels about our actions, for many, many of those who came before us, the answer, Ya Allah, I didn't know. That will be enough. That will be fine. For me and you, however, the tides have turned a little. The answer of I didn't know is no longer good enough. Why? Because Allah gave you everything you needed in order for you to know. Now if you don't know, it's on you. Ya Allah, I didn't know I was wrong. Why did you never check? Why did you never care enough to think about it? See, oftentimes when we think we really care about something, you'll look into it. You'll look after it. You'll make sure you're correct about it. But we fail to do that with our religion. And oftentimes when we're looking into our religion, when we do research, unfortunately, the reason is because we want to make sure that I'm right and somebody else is wrong. When we have a disagreement with somebody, that's the only time we turn to the books. I'll go look at the books for the sake of reading and learning to increase your own knowledge. This search for knowledge, this thirst for knowledge, this thirst for advice, it should always be alive within us. I often quote the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, قُلْ هَسْتَوِ الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Can the one with intelligence be the same as the one who does not have intelligence? Of course not. A man once comes to our holy Imam, and again, many of you will have heard me narrate this story as well. A man comes to our holy Imam and he asks him, Ya Imam, if I have 24 hours left to live, what should I do with my life? You might say, go read Quran. You might say, go read Salah. You might say, go spend time with your family. You might say, go give some charity. No. What does the Imam say? Go learn something new. Ya Imam, what am I going to do by learning something new? I've got 24 hours left to live. Where am I going to take that knowledge? What can I do with that? When you learn, you train the way of thinking that you have. When you train your way of thinking, you fine-tune your ability to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything you see and sense. That's what you're doing when you learn. So never ever let that thirst for advice and that thirst and hunger for knowledge go away. But how do we know where to get that advice from? How do we search for the right advice? See, when we're looking for help from anyone or anything, there's three things that we have to look for. The first one is that this person knows how to help me. If they don't know how to help me, then they can't help me. The second one is that they want to help me. They have the willingness to help me. If they know how to help me but they don't want to, that's not going to be any use to me either. And the third is they know how to, they want to, and they also have the tools to do so. If they have all three of these things, we can seek advice from them. And let me put that into real terms for you, right? Oftentimes, when it comes to does somebody know how to help you or not, this is one of the most important things. Are you seeking advice from the right places? Am I seeking advice about my car from my doctor or advice for my health from my mechanic? Of course not. I go to the right place where the experts are. So go to the experts for anything that you're looking for. That's the first one. The second one, do they want to help you? Oftentimes, when I was younger, when I used to play football, when an opposition team player would have the ball and they were, I don't know, somewhere in midfield, I would shout, shoot. They'd shoot and I'd start laughing because they're going to miss because they're shooting from so far out. And in my head, I'm always thinking, why did he listen to me? I'm on the other team. I don't want him to win. Why would he listen to me? I know he shouldn't shoot. The knowledge was there. I don't want him to do well. So I give him the wrong advice. I shout shoot and he shoots and I'm happy now. See, the person has to want the best for you. They have to want you to do well. And the third one, the tools. Let's say your car breaks down. You go to a mechanic. You go to a mechanic, but this mechanic's retired. He doesn't have a garage anymore. He doesn't have his tools anymore. What's he going to do for you? You feel ill, you go to a doctor, but a doctor who's retired. They're not with a clinic, they're not with a hospital. They know what to do. They want to help you. They don't have the tools available to help you. You have to have all three of these things where you seek help from. The knowledge of how to help you, the willingness to help you, and the tools to carry that out. When we say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, I only worship you and I only turn to you for help. Why? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have the knowledge to help me? Of course. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-knowing. Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to help me? Of course. I am His creation. He wants the best for me. He's Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He's given me so much without me ever asking for it or even deserving it. Of course He wants the best for me. He will help me. He wants to. And does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have the power and the tools to help you? Of course He does. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has qadr over all things. So we realize then that we want to seek advice, we want to seek help, we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we turn to the resources that He has placed in our lives. Oftentimes, when we hear the verse of the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, La yukallifu Allah nafsan illa wus'aha, Allah doesn't burden a soul more than it can bear, we think that means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He won't give me a test that I'm too weak for. Although, as though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sat somewhere thinking, no, Zaki can't handle that, give him something else. No, but what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means by this verse is, look, you will be tested. You will have difficult times, dark days, you will have trials and tribulations, but I have placed in your life the resources you need already for you to go through those. I will not burden you without equipping you first. You go to do a test at school, you look at the test and it's nothing what you learn about. If I were to give you your final GCSE exam when you're only 1 month into the course, of course that's not fair. Why? Because you've not learnt the content yet. I've not given you the knowledge to give that test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us resources, and the greatest resource we have is our community. The people around us. The ones who want the best for us. The ones who we can turn to for help. Make sure that we take advantage of that. Imam Ali here is telling his son, take advice, good advice where you find it. We have to make sure we're able to differentiate the good advice from the bad. The true knowledge from the false knowledge. And then we have to make sure we open ourselves up enough that we are able to take that. Remove your ego, remove anything that is stopping you from taking advice. If somebody younger comes to you with advice, listen to what they have to say. Judge it based on its merits. Somebody older comes to you with advice, do the exact same thing. Somebody who has a differing point of view to you, listen to what they're saying based on its merits, not based on who's talking. This is what Imam Ali alayhi salam tells his son, so why should we not follow on the same path? The second piece of advice that the Imam gives his son, or rather the third in total, the second that we'll look at today, is he says, make sure you remember the past civilizations, the people who came before you. And the words that the Imam uses are the ruined cities, the remains of cities, the destroyed palaces. What is Imam alluding to here? He's looking here at saying, look back at history, learn from the mistakes of others, and make sure you recognize and realize at the same time that no matter how much they had, it all finished. All of it was lost. No matter what it was that they amassed, no matter what it was that they gained, however much wealth or power it was, look at where they are now. Look at what happened to them. Recognize that this material world is not what is going to take you to the final abode. No. This material world is not what is going to help you when you truly need it. Of course not. We're told this again and again, but how much do we really internalize it? How much do we really realize this material world, everything that I've gained in this time, in my time on earth, what have I really done with it? Have I made use of it, or will it too become like those ruined palaces that the Imam talks about? Look at these palaces that great kings have built. They had hundreds of slaves working on their palaces, making the most incredible buildings, the most beautiful architecture you've seen. A few hundred years down the line, it's dust and rubble for tourists to come and look at. A few hundred years down the line, I can't tell you the name of any of those kings. I can't tell you the names of those who built those palaces. Everything we amass in this world, it stays here. The only difficult thing is we don't stay with it. We leave this world. Everything else stays right here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, how many times does He need to tell us that we are not staying here before we recognize it? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Kullu man alayha fan. Kullu man alayha fan. Everything that is in existence, it will cease to be. It will die. Everything. So why do we sit here and think I will do everything and amass everything for my life in this world and completely forget about the next? See, it's one thing to forget about the next world. It's one thing to leave the next world behind. But when you do that, having known all of this about how the material world works, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught you and told you again and again and again in the Holy Quran, you're not meant to stay here, you won't be staying here. You didn't come from here, nor will you end up here. Then it's complete ignorance to live a life thinking that this material world is what will take me to the final abode. Of course not. The Imam's telling you here, remember everyone that's gone before you. Look what happened to them. They focused too much on this world and ignored the next. Now, as I say that, there is a point to gain wealth, to work on prosperity in this life, to make sure that you are stable and comfortable and able to live a good life in this world. That's not un-Islamic. Absolutely not. What is un-Islamic is when you do that at the cost of the next world, at the cost of the next life. You let go of your akhirah for the sake of this life. No. And in the same way, don't let go of this life for the sake of the akhirah. We have a hadith from our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The one who leaves this life for the next, or this world for the next, and the one who leaves the next world for this world is not from among us. Those aren't the ways of the Prophet. That's not what Islam's telling you to do. What Islam's telling you to do is find a balance so that you live comfortably in this life and comfortably in the next. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, he goes on to talk about that next life as well. He describes the people who have gone past that we should look back at in history. And how does he describe them? He says, look at where they went. They left to a place of, he says, if you look at the people who had built those palaces and built those cities, he says they ended up alone, in solitary, with no one around them. Imam Ali alayhi salam here is talking about the grave, the qabr, when it is literally just you and your a'mal. The people who were there with you your whole life, they won't be there anymore. Make sure, and this is where your legacy truly comes into play. Make sure that those people who won't come with you to the next world, when they remain in this world, they still continue to be of benefit to you. How do you do that? You teach them and raise them and educate them in such a way that they know how to support you when you've left this world. And at the same time, you make sure that you've endeared yourself so much to the people that they want to do good for you, that they want to help you when you leave this world. You see, there's those people who, when you go to the graveyard, and it's quite a sad sight to see if you often stop and think and ponder, you'll see some graves which are beautifully taken care of. You'll see the grave is clear. People come and they visit this grave. They take care of this grave. That tells you this person, whoever is in this grave, they mean something to somebody. And then you see graves that are completely dilapidated, completely left alone. One point, try and make a point. If you go to a graveyard, particularly a Mu'min graveyard, a graveyard where Mu'mineen are buried, if you see a grave like that, sprinkle some water on the grave. Give that grave a little bit of attention as well. But make sure that when you live your life, you don't live it in such a way that you allow people to forget you like that grave is forgotten. One of the greatest pains that you can imagine is when you go to a grave and you realize nobody's taking care of this. Somebody lived a whole life, a full life, a rich life, surely. But they lived a life and now it's forgotten about so much that people can't even come and visit their grave. Make sure whatever you can do to prevent that happening to you, make sure you do. That grave, it can be a very scary place. It can be a very difficult place. But we've been given the tips, we've been given the guidance on how to stop it being so scary. One of the things and one of the reasons that the next world is so scary is because it is unknown. We are naturally afraid of what we don't know. One of the things we're told to do is go regularly and visit the graveyards, because that way it becomes a little bit more familiar for you when you finally make that final journey. When you make that final journey, if it's a place that you recognize that you've been going to within your lifetime, you'll find it's that little bit less scary. So take time out of your week, out of your month, to go and visit the graves, to go and visit those who have passed on, and stop and ponder and think, one day that will be me. One day I too will be lying there. One day I too will return to my Lord. And then go, whatever you think of, whatever that inspires within you, go live by those means. Go live with that inspiration in your heart and in your mind. Imam Ali alayhi salam is telling his son, remember the people of the grave. Remember what they are like in the grave. And my final point before I move towards Masahib. How does the Imam describe the grave? Solitary, alone. Now when the Imam describes it like that, he is showing the fearfulness and the difficult qualities of the grave. Solitude, loneliness, these are some of the greatest punishments of the grave. The fact that you will be all alone. Don't live your life in the same way. Live your life around people, because solitude is a test. Solitude is difficult. We weren't meant to be alone. No, we were meant to be around people. Be social. Spend your time with people. Enjoy your time with people. Islam, for so many people, has been painted as a picture of difficulty, has been painted as a picture of trials and tribulations. No, like I said yesterday, the world is difficult. The reality of the world is trials and tribulations. Islam is the cure and the beauty that gets you through it. And the beauty and the cure that Islam is giving you here is Islam is telling you to be social. Islam is telling you, spend time with your fellow believers, spend time with your brothers, spend time with your family, spend time with your community. Because in that, you will find happiness, and in that, you will find there is beauty and benefit. But see, you have to make sure that your community is one that can support you, and that you are one that can support your community. See, when we look back at the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam, we realize my Mawla's greatest tragedy was not what happened that night in Masjid al-Kufa. When you look back at the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you realize the greatest pain that my Mawla suffered was not the strike of the sword. The greatest difficulty he faced was not the poison that ran through his blood, no. The greatest pain my Mawla faced, let me tell you the real tragedies of the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The city is Medina. Amir al-Mu'mineen has returned home one day. Every day he returns home tired, exhausted after having faced the people of the city. But every day he comes home, he sees the shining face of Zahra. He gets some solace, he takes some comfort from his wife, from baby Zahra, from baby Fatima. He takes comfort. But today, as Amir al-Mu'mineen arrives home, he sees there is something different about Zahra today. There is something troubling my wife today. There is something concerning her. Amir al-Mu'mineen sees this. He steps forward. He says, Zahra, tell me, what is it? What is the matter? Bibi Fatima turns around, she says to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, forgive me, but there is a question I want to ask of you. Ali asks his wife, tell me, what was the question? What do you wish to ask? What is troubling you so much? Bibi Fatima looks at Imam Ali and she says, Ali, I heard that in the streets the people have stopped saying salam to you. Amir al-Mu'mineen turns to Zahra. He says, Zahra, it is not just that they have stopped saying salam to me, but when Ali says salam to the people, they have stopped returning my salams. They don't consider Ali to be a Muslim anymore. Ali's great pain was that Zahra saw him in this state. What else hurts Ali? What else hurts Amir al-Mu'mineen? I tell you, every great tragedy in the life of Ali was the pains of Zahra, was the pains that his wife went through. Amir al-Mu'mineen, when the day comes finally a few days later, It was not long after he had this conversation. Amir al-Mu'mineen is in the masjid. His sons Imam Hassan Hussein come rushing to him. They whisper something in his ear. Immediately Ali gets up and begins rushing back towards his house. He falls and he trips as he rushes back, but he must get home. As he gets back inside, there's only a very short distance between the masjid and the house of Zahra. He returns home. He opens the door. He calls out, Assalamu alayki ya bint Rasulullah. Oh, the daughter of Rasulullah. Ali sends his salams upon you. But today, even Zahra has stopped responding to the salams of Ali. He calls out again, Assalamu alayki ya bint Rasulullah. Again, there is no response. A third time, he calls out, Assalamu alayki ya Fatimah Zahra. A third time, there is no response now. Ali does not care whether the people of Medina say salam to him or not. All Ali wants in this moment is for his Zahra to respond to him. But no, Zahra is no longer with Ali. Zahra has left this world, and here the greatest pains of Ali befall us. We often hear that Sayyidah Zahra, part of her will was that she be buried at night so that those who hurt her would not be able to attend her funeral. But what we often don't think about is, why did Zahra say to Imam Ali, Ali, I want you to do my ghusl and kafan at night as well. My heart tells me, Ya Zahra, I must ask, what was the reason for the ghusl and kafan at night? The burial that happens outside of the home, I understand, but ghusl and kafan is within your own home. My heart tells me, Zahra thought, if my ghusl and kafan takes place at night, there is a chance, however small, that Ali might not be able to see my injuries. Ali might not see what happened to his Zahra. Imam Ali gets his children ready. He turns to Zainab and Kulthum. Turns to his two daughters and he says to them, I know, children, how much pain you are going through. Believe me, Ali is in pain as well. I know what it feels like to lose the person you love so much. But your mother did not want anybody to find out about the pain she went through. She does not want anybody to find out she has left this world. So whatever you do, try your best not to cry out loud. Try your best to contain your tears. If you must cry, try and do it quietly so nobody else hears. The children rally round one another. They sit down together. Now Imam Ali alayhi salam, he enters the room where the ghusl is to take place. He begins giving ghusl to Sayyidah Zahra. Not long had passed. The children sat outside. What do they hear? They hear the clamoring of a tray as though a tray has fallen on the floor. They hear a thud against the wall. What has happened? Amir al-Mu'mineen has fallen back against the wall. He has dropped to the ground. His tears begin to flow profusely. Now Ali cannot stop crying, but he doesn't just cry. Ali weeps and he wails. The man who destroyed Marhab, the man who lifts the gates of Khaybar, here begins crying out loud. The children have not seen their father in this state except for on the Musalla. They come, they see what has happened. Ali takes his children in his arms, and then he turns to his daughter, his darling, his princess, only a small child at the time. And he turns and addresses her. He says to her, my Zainab, tell me one thing. Did your mother tell you her ribs had been broken? My Zainab, tell me one thing. Did your mother tell you the pain she was in? Ali, why? Why do you ask Zainab? Because Ali knows Zainab, although only a few years old at the time, she is the confidant of her mother. Everything Zahra kept secret, she would keep it secret from the whole world, except for her Zainab. Everything Zahra held within her, she hid it from everybody, but she did not hide it from Zainab. My heart tells me Zahra was preparing her daughter from a very young age, for she knew the musibah of Zainab will be greater than anybody else. She knew that Zainab will become Ummul Masaib. She knew that Zainab will be the one who will have to suffer the same injuries, the broken bones like Zahra, the attacks and the whips like Zahra, the burning tent like the door of Zahra. Zahra knew. She readied her Zainab. She prepared everything. But when we talk of the strength of Ali, I see no greater moment of strength for my master than the final moments of the janazah of Sayyidah Zahra. You speak of the gates of Khaybar. I tell you what my Mawla did then was much greater, was much more difficult. In Khaybar, Ali had to pull the gates from the castle. But here, as the body of Sayyidah Zahra is laid out in the courtyard, the Imams Hassan and Hussein, the two young boys, they hold their mother tight, Zainab and Kulsum. They lean over their mother crying and weeping. At one point, Jibreel comes down from the heavens. He addresses my Mawla. He says, Ali, there is chaos in the heavens. The skies are trembling. Ali, remove the children from Zahra, or the sky will collapse into the earth. I see the strength in Khaybar, but I will never understand how Ali pulled these 4 grieving children from the body of their mother Zahra. ألا لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين فسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. موطن حسين. मोमिनो है दर कर रारे का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है कर रारे का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है दर कर रारे का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है दर कर रारे का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है दर कर रारे का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है दर कर रारे का मातम कर लो. लो मोहम्मद के अलम दार का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है रारे का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है दर कर रारे का मातम कर लो. जो के पाँचों में भी है 12 इमामों में भी है. जो के पाँचों में भी है 12 इमामों में भी है. सारे नबियों के मदद गारे का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है दर कर रारे का मातम कर लो. मोमिनो है दर कर रारे का मातम कर लो. अपने कातिल को दिया जिसने के जामे शेरीन. अपने कातिल को दिया जिसने के जामे शेरीन.
کو سر جام کے مختار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در کر رار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے رار کا ماتم کر لو مل کے جبریل کے اس تاد کا پرسا دے دو مل کے جبریل کے تاد کا پرسا دے دو صاحب دل تلوار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے رار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در کر رار کا ماتم کر لو خاکراؤ کے علی شیر خدا مار گئے خاکراؤ کے علی شیر خدا مار گئے بازو احمد مختار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در کر رار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در کر رار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در کر رار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے در رار کا ماتم کر لو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ہے رار کا ماتم کر لو یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا خريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وعنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض توس ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، واجعلنا من أنصارك وعوانك ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dear brothers and sisters, tomorrow is the night of the 21st, the Shahada of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and one of the nights of power of this holy month. It is also happens to be the time that the clock changes, so the hour will go back and Maghrib will be at 7:45ish. As such, the program will be beforehand. Forward, not backwards. The program will be beforehand, so we will start with the program at 6:30 with the dua, and then the marsiya majlis, and the program will follow until iftar time, where we will recite namaz with amal to follow after iftar. So can we all please, before we head off, recite one surah Fatiha for all the marhumin and marhumat who are present and not present, as well as Ghulam Ali Sulaiman Bandali and Suhrabai Bandali and family, Bir Ali Maulidina and family, Akbar Ali Devji and family, as well as Roshan Ali Jetha, Mrs. Sheherbanu Ismail Jetha, Fazal Jetha, Mrs. Khurshid A. Patel, Ahmed Ali Patel, Marhum Dawood Jafar, Marhuma Amina Bai Walji Rajbar, Marhuma Nazma Dawood Jafar, Marhum Razman Ali Ghulam Ali Molidina, Marhuma Fatima Bai Hussein Hassan Banji, Marhum Abdullah Bai Walji Rajbar, and Maulana Sayyid Shamim Musaddin Rizvi as well. Can we do that following a loud salawat? Salawat.